Hi, I'm Kamon Reynolds. Today we're going to make some sugar bricks really quick, talk about them for a second, and then also address some of the issues with mountain camp sugar that I've seen over the years and things that you have to watch out for. So first of all, let's just make the sugar bricks. There's really not a whole lot to them. You can add a lot of fancy little things to it like vinegar or electrolytes and all that kind of stuff. I just don't do that, but there are several beekeepers that I know that do that and are very successful. The biggest concern of mine though is if you're in an area where you have weeks or months without cleansing flight temperatures, be very careful with any feed that you give to your bees, because even if it's like a honey that's slightly fermented that's your own, any extra roughage that can get in their gut and just sit there and start growing in their gut during winter can cause some major problems. So be very careful if you're in one of those extreme areas. It's very easy for us in the South to be able to do a lot of things, whether they're beneficial or not, and get away with it because our bees can get out and fly and take off a load, so to speak. So anyways, let's get to this. What we have right here is 10 pounds of sugar. Nothing fancy there. So it's easy. You can get a 10-pound bag of sugar at your grocery store, and then you need a full cup of water, or 236 point something milliliters. It doesn't have to be exact. So we're going to throw in a full cup in here. If you throw in a little bit extra, it won't hurt anything. And the water is warm. It probably doesn't have to be, but that's what I do. Just go ahead and get it a little warm now. Basically, we're just going to take a drill, and you can use a spoon for this, but I love this whole setup right here. We use it all the time. We're just going to mix that in. It's going to come out with a texture kind of like artificial snow if you've ever done any skiing. Just work that in and just keep pushing down. Yeah, there we go. Kind of getting that nice powder look. Just push it down in there and make sure that moisture is getting spread around. You need it uniform throughout the entire mix. Not much water, but it works great. Alright, that's pretty good right there. Yeah, that's perfect. It kind of feels almost like sandish and looks like the powder on a snowbank. Yeah, it's just perfect texture. Just evenly distributed moisture throughout. And then we're going to show you what you need to do from here. Alright. And this isn't the best way to feed, in my opinion. The best way is to, one, either leave enough honey, or if that wasn't an option, to give them sugar syrup in fall. That's one of the things that we go through our colonies as soon as the end of the fall flow in late September rolls around. That might be earlier or later for you. And we get onto it and we see which colonies have enough, which ones don't, and then we feed them syrup, because I don't like having to feed in winter. But if you need to, this is a great method. Whoa, that was a little bit more than I thought it would be. All right, good thing is I can just scoop that up. Now you can get these trays at a lot of different places. Some places are cheaper than others, and I prefer to get a lot of my stuff online, so it'll just come to my door. If you'd like to check out where I got these, I'll leave that below, but you can also find these in stores all over the place. Alright, now we're just going to fill this up all the way. Now you're probably wondering, how is this going to go underneath my lid? Now I'm going to show you what you can either build or what you can do to accommodate this sugar brick. Now what's going to happen, if you're not familiar, is that we are going to stick this either one in an oven at about 160, 180 degrees. The temperature is really not that crucial. Stick it in there for a couple hours and just let it dry. Now you don't even have to do that if you have an area that doesn't have a lot of moisture in it. As far as it's not a very humid area, just kind of like what's in your house, and you leave it in there for several days, they'll set up on their own. What I typically do this time of the year, since we have a wood stove going, I just sit them within a few feet of the wood stove, and that works out great. So it'll set up and it will feel just like one of those concrete blocks, or those little patio steps, kind of that sound when they rub against each other, that grating sound. That's exactly the texture that you're going to have at the end. And why I think this is better now than the mountain camp sugar is, yes, It takes a little bit of preparation instead of just going to the colony and dumping it in, but it makes a perfect uniform sugar brick, and that's the biggest problem with the mountain camp sugar method, is the fact that most of the time, because we're geared and we're told don't too much moisture in the hive, moisture's bad in the hive, that whenever we make that mountain camp sugar, we don't put enough in there. We think we do, but we don't, and we get a hard layer on the outside, but the inside is still granulated sugar, and when the bees suck all the moisture or the hard stuff off of it and they get to that granulated section, it's going to fall through, and the bees aren't going to fool with it in little granulated pieces. They're just going to chuck that out of the hive. So when beekeepers see that being chucked out of the hive, it's either one, because they didn't get enough moisture into it, which is the most common problem, or because they're trying to feed it during a nectar flow, which, why in the world are you doing that? But most of the time it's because they didn't uniformly moisten the sugar. This works great. I've got some videos. I have a colony that is going through its second one. It was light, and I threw some that are about half this size. It worked fantastic, and I've checked all the way to the bottom board. I'm not seeing any sugar at all. And one of the things I wanted to mention is, again, is how to accommodate these things. So right here, I've got one of our feeder rims, and it is 1.5 inch tall. It's just like basically like a honey super, and it just fits right onto the hive. You can make these for nothing if you have scrap wood laying around. And I highly recommend, I've got staples in the ends, but glue them. It makes them so much stronger. And we're going to dip these, but you can paint them to make them last longer, but you can stick them on, and you can get these things in there. And I mean, look at this. It'll fit one, and then I can take another one and fit two in here. So it's really handy to be able to do that if they need a lot. Ideally, you're going to take care of it in the fall. You're not going to need to feed anything like this, but maybe you're in an area where the winters where it was extra long, or who knows what. Some people don't like the idea of ever feeding sugar, and hey, I wish I never had to do any of it myself, because it saved me a whole lot of time and money. But there are always those colonies that have issues at the wrong time of the year, and they don't capitalize on the real stuff. And nature, if you don't meet those rules, then nature will eliminate you. As beekeepers, I prefer to keep those colonies alive, and if it's a genetic problem, just requeen the colony, but don't lose those bees, especially when you can spend a couple bucks worth of sugar and save that colony, which is worth hundreds of dollars in prime condition. Now, you want to make sure that you're not feeding this right before you're putting on honey supers. So here we usually put on our honey supers about the first or second week of April. So we're not going to be feeding anywhere close to that. And we don't leave our honey supers on all winter long. You'll see what we're doing in other videos, but you ought to try the sugar bricks out. So again, you can warm them up in your oven and then take them out to the beehives once they've cooled down. They work very, very good, and the bees will just start sucking away at them, just like my kids with some of that peppermint candy at Christmas, and go to town. So ideally, take care of it early, but if not, these sugar bricks can really help you out. If you have any comments or questions, leave them below.